Dando continuidad con el Congreso, me permito presentar un video de parte de nuestro auspiciante ThinLinc en la parte de Marketing de Estudio. A continuación les presentamos a Sowry con toda la presentación referente a qué es ThinLinc.
Hello and good afternoon. I hope you're all enjoying the conference so far. Thanks for joining. So today I'll be talking a little bit about the company I work for called Sendio and the Linux-based remote desktop server product that we develop and support, known as ThinLinc. So firstly, a little bit about me. My name is Sowry. I joined Sendio in 2008, initially as a developer, but I am currently working as a technical pre-sales consultant and systems engineer, working with ThinLinc to help people get up and running with it, to evaluate it, to set up proof of concept installations, and eventually migrate from the proof of concept to the production stage. Since 2015 I've been based in New Zealand, so the time difference means that when you see this it will be a pre-recorded presentation, which means I won't be available at the end to take questions and give answers, but I will provide you with some contact details if you need to get in touch. So firstly, a little bit about Sendio. Sendio was founded in 1992 in Linköping in Sweden by several graduates of Linköping University. Some of you might recognize Linköping University for its involvement with NSC, which is Sweden's National Supercomputing Center. Initially, Sendio was providing open source and Linux-based consulting services. You might also note that the initial release of the Linux kernel was made in 1991. So, being formed in 1992, Sendio were very early adopters of this technology and have been working with it ever since. And by some measure, this perhaps makes Sendio one of the oldest Linux-focused companies in the world. Up until the late 90s, Sendio developed a firewall known as Fuego, as well as providing consulting services, but now we are exclusively focused on ThinLinc, exclusively focused on developing and supporting the product, and ThinLinc is a Linux-based remote desktop server. That's what we do, that's all we do. And these days, Sendio as a company is located in Mjärdevi Science Park, with other companies such as Saab, Ericsson, who are actually also ThinLinc customers. So ThinLinc itself was initially developed as a consultancy project for one of our customers. But when it was finished, it slowly became more and more popular to the point where we wanted to release it as a supported product, as an officially supported product. And in 2003 we did just that. So in 2003, Sendio made the first official ThinLinc release public. And today ThinLinc serves many thousands of users all over the world, and that process represents 17 years of testing, research and development, to the point where we now have a very mature, stable and field-tested product. And here we have a list of just a few of our customers. We have customers in all sorts of different sectors all over the world. The selection here is really designed to highlight ThinLinc's usage within the within the HPC sector. And you might recognize some names there. Not least of all, Indiana University and MAN, who, if you were present for the morning's sessions, you may have seen give a couple of presentations. But besides HPC, ThinLinc is also prominent in other sectors such as manufacturing, telecom, research, healthcare, financial services, VFX, e-commerce, and of course HPC. So ThinLinc, as mentioned, is a remote desktop server. It's designed to implement what's called server-based computing, to publish desktops and applications to remote users. It's built on open source components. So for example, the video is transported using the VNC protocol. We use Pulse Audio for the audio transport. We use cups for printing. And all traffic is tunneled over a secure SSH tunnel. ThinLinc uses a fair licensing model. We don't license per individual named user. We don't license per CPU. We license per concurrent user, which means that you only need to have licenses available for the number of users you expect to be using the system at the same time. Even if there's 1,000 potential users, if there's only ever going to be 200 using the system at one time, then you only need 200 licenses. It's a product which is fully supported by those who built it. We don't outsource our support to call centers or to third parties. When we support our product, and the people that you will be communicating with when you need support are those people who built it. They are the developers and employees of Sendio, and we're quite proud of our support. In 2019, we dropped support for Windows desktops and applications. So now we are 100% focused on Linux. That was a conscious decision. We want to focus on our core customers, and our core customers use Linux. This does not mean that you can't use ThinLinc to access Windows desktops and applications. It just means that that functionality isn't included out of the box. And if you do need assistance with accessing Windows desktops and applications along with Linux ones, then we can provide assistance around that. ThinLinc has support for all major distributions and desktop environments. So whatever your preferences are around using Linux, they're likely to be supported under ThinLinc. And these are just a number of different examples of distributions that people are using with ThinLinc, and a couple of examples of the different desktop environments that people are using too. We generally find that in terms of desktop environments, it's the more lightweight ones which are more appropriate for remote desktop environments which need to support a large number of users. So desktop environments such as XFCE or Mate are quite good options here. Your choice of distribution really doesn't matter, it's just whatever suits you in your particular application, but all the ones shown here are more or less fully supported. On the client side, ThinLinc has clients available for all major platforms, so that's Windows, Linux, and Mac. Plus, we also provide an HTML5 client which can be run in the browser, and because it's HTML5 based, that means that there is nothing to download. The HTML5 client or the browser client does not have feature parity with the native clients, so there will be some features missing, but for many people it's actually good enough to use as a daily driver. We also have clients available for thin client devices, such as those provided by iGel, HP, Dell, Wise. And we even have an ARM client which can be used on certain pieces of ARM hardware as well. Security and performance are key focus areas for ThinLinc. We do tunnel all traffic between the client and the server over a secure SSH tunnel, and that means that ThinLinc can be used safely over unsecured networks such as the internet, which allows people to be able to access these resources from home, over the internet or over 4G, wherever they are. Performance also plays a part in this because ThinLinc is specifically optimized for high latency and low bandwidth connections. This means that it performs well over cellular networks and perhaps internet connections which are not high quality as well. We support full duplex audio, which means microphone support as well as speaker support. We support things like printing, local files, multiple monitors. ThinLinc also supports multiple authentication mechanisms, including smart cards. On the server side, we have load balancing and redundancy built in. So ThinLinc will normally be configured as a cluster rather than a single server, and that means that as people log in, ThinLinc will distribute the sessions over the servers in a cluster in order to spread those resources and make efficient use of them. ThinLinc is built on Unix principles, and that means that anybody who's familiar with administering a Linux environment should feel quite comfortable administering a Linux server as well. And we think that's why we've found quite an affinity with the HPC market. HPC system administrators and users are normally quite familiar with Linux, and when they get a hold of ThinLinc and install it and use it and configure it, they feel quite familiar with the product because it is built on these principles. So for example, text-based configuration files and the directory structures that we use mirror Linux directory structures as well. Administration of a ThinLinc server can be done either using a web-based administration interface or at the command line. We have support for session shadowing for administrative users, so that an administrator can actually shadow a user's session, and that means controlling the keyboard and mouse and seeing their screen in order to provide end user support. We provide persistent sessions, or otherwise known as hot desking, so that people can close their session in one location and pick it up on another device at a different location, and everything will be exactly as they left it. We do have touch gesture support on those devices that support it, so pinch to zoom and scroll and things like that. And our general principle is that we want ThinLinc to work on any device anywhere, so that people have access to their desktops and applications wherever they are from whatever device they happen to be sitting in front of. So where does that place us with regards to HPC? Well, over the past several years, we've actually found a lot of demand from the HPC sector, and that was somewhat unexpected. As a company, we always assumed that HPC users accessed their resources via the command line, that they were all huge Linux geeks, and they had no use for a desktop whatsoever, but we've found that's not actually the case. HPC organizations these days are looking to provide easy access to their HPC resources, especially for non-technical users. They want to expand their user base, they want to increase usage of their systems and make those resources easily available to the widest range of people possible. And one good way to do that is to provide them with a familiar environment, not to provide them with a command line where they just submit jobs and wait for a response, but to provide them with a desktop environment. And because ThinLinc has a Linux focus, that makes it a natural fit for this sector and a natural fit for this application. And this is why we're here sponsoring Carla 2020 today, is because we want to promote ourselves in this sector, and we want to gain feedback from people using ThinLinc in an HPC application so that we can learn how to make our product better for HPC users. So, as part of this, we are organizing frequent webinars via Zoom. They're not all with an HPC focus, but some of them are. The past 3 webinars that we've had have all had an HPC focus, and they've been really, really successful. These are not marketing events. They are by and for our users. They are designed to allow some of our users to showcase their solutions, which are based on ThinLinc, to share ideas with other ThinLinc users or others who do not yet use ThinLinc, and to basically create a community of like-minded users. These have been very successful in the past, and we've had people from all over the world attending. We've had some really interesting presentations, and you're welcome to join. I'd like to extend the invitation to everybody here today. It is by invitation only. So if you are interested in attending one of these webinars, please get in touch at the contact details I'll leave at the end of this presentation. If you're interested in testing and evaluating ThinLinc, it's free and unrestricted for up to 5 concurrent users. That's the full product. There is no restrictions put in place besides the number of concurrent users that connect to the system at the same time. So it is the full product. It's easy and quick to download. If you visit sendio.com, you'll see a link there which will allow you to download the server and client packages. It's easy to set up and configure for testing if you just want to set up a small instance just for proof of concept. And of course, if you need any help during this process, just let us know. We'll be more than happy to provide you with support from our team. I personally will be happy to support you through this process. That's my job. So if you do need any assistance with that, just feel free to get in touch. If you do need to get in touch, you can send an email to contact@sendio.com or visit our website, where you'll find more details about the product and also the company. There are links to mailing lists on the website if you'd like to subscribe to them and get announcements about new releases that we make or new features, or join the discussion. Yeah, so I hope to see you there. Thanks for listening, and enjoy the rest of your conference.